Hello everyone. Sorry about last week's video. I'm afraid I was somewhat under the weather with a voice that would barely lasted 2 seconds, never mind the length of a video review. So I hope this week things go a little bit better. I was reflecting on the feedback from the supplier relationships exercise. And as you might expect, I guess, with such a wide range of participants, lots of whom have got active careers already in this field, there were some very good answers. Most of the people responding had recognised the need for focus in their supplier relationships. And I really think that when you look at those results and then reflect back on the relationship portfolio discussions, you'll see why this is really important. Of course, 5% of the respondents still had more suppliers than they had employees, and you simply cannot manage that number of relationships. So if the relationship portfolio discussion didn't mean anything to you before, look back on it and think about how you would actually manage all of these relationships. Thought I would just reflect on some of this week's discussion topic about career paths and to highlight some of the key messages that I took out of the discussion. A couple of general points from both of our external speakers. The fact that commercial and contract management really touches on the whole business. Carol from IBM really described it very nicely. It parallels the whole of the sales process and supports innovation. Now, you can't get much more core to the business than that. Barry went on to talk about and emphasise for me the need for breadth as well as managing detail in this kind of career. And this mix of technical, more focused perhaps on the function rather than the business, but technical as well as key behavioural skills. So as you're building your portfolio of capabilities for the future, think about these things as well. Barry also made a really interesting point, I thought, which I've collected it as build a relationship before you need it. In other words, build an understanding of the other party's point of view and interests and key decision points and must-haves from negotiations, for example. But build that understanding early. And then when you've got the relationship working, then other things become possible. Risks get looked at in a different way if two sides are looking at them. Challenges can be seen as for both sides, with benefits to be shared in some considered fashion as well. But the effort needs to go in early. But for me, that reinforces the point about portfolios. You can't afford to put this kind of relationship effort into everyone that you deal with. So choose your partners, customers and suppliers, choose your partners very carefully and manage them actively. However, both of our key speakers from big companies, but we also had the point made that the same thing applies for small and medium enterprises and certainly applies for public sector. That this new career path is being chosen by people. Both Barry and Carol had chosen this rather than falling into it, as used to be the case or the more typical case in the past, but saw it as a route to the very highest chief executive type level, chief commercial officer perhaps, level inside the boardrooms. And this is a really positive message for the future. But it's one that you've got to be consciously building. And of course the Megit career roadmap is certainly going to be worth downloading when we get that organised, just to give some indication of how the world changes as the experience levels and the opportunities fall into place. Now, Big companies often have that capability of giving you complete careers. But if you're driving your own career and your companies or your organizations aren't big enough, or perhaps not enough of the people at the top understand how the world is changing, then you might have to plan for changed careers, or different employers at least. And then the big picture in your head becomes the one that's really important to manage. So hopefully this MOOC will have given you a lot of things to think about, not all of which you'll be able to do tomorrow. Some new attitudes maybe, which you might be able to apply tomorrow. But in all of this, we've had the opportunity to share from global experts, from each other. There's been some really notable contributions from some of our speakers and some of our commentators, your peers in the MOOC, some names that crop up quite a lot. We in the Centre recognise that not everyone is ready to, or enough experience or comfort in posting comments. But we hope that lots of you are at least reading the comments, because there's lots of value to be gathered in there as well as from the steps. So thanks very much for joining us in this journey, and our very best wishes for your future along this really interesting and challenging career path. All the very best. Bye now.